businesses who I hadn't seen in a long time. And a surprise, so many people I know here haven't seen in a long time. So I saw Marian. Has Marian gone or she's here? Okay, so I saw Marian, John Bosco. I have seen Dennis, who left, Vice Chairperson for Rwanda. And really all of you who asked me to come this evening. So Jas, you are really interesting because you didn't tell me there's a fantastic group of people that Simon has been asking me to come and talk to, and I never had an opportunity to. And he tricked me because I didn't know about this until 4 o'clock. It's an ambush, huh? So I just didn't know what to say, but I said, let me go and tell them what I do and see if this makes sense for East Africans. Huh? And our beautiful MC, who I just kept on my feet thinking, was I the one at Mary Stewart? What a beautiful story you told, Fiona. I think we do things, but people are watching. And leadership is just making sure that you do what you do in private as well as in public because someone is watching. If it's good, they will follow. If it's wrong, problems. So when I was coming here, I was looking for what I could share with you, and I was drawn to a quotation from a writer called Eric Hoffer, who said that in times of drastic change, it is the learners who will inherit the future. The learned find themselves equipped to live in a world that no longer exists. And in my mind, the lessons of COVID-19 came to my mind because we had like escalator turbulence under COVID-19. There were so many shocks that many people thought Africa, East Africa, our countries, our economies would not survive. And but interestingly, COVID-19 began to unite us somehow at the policy level, at a slight coordination level, so that the region and its citizens begin to speak to each other in a different way. And I thought these lessons would be domesticated, what we learned under COVID. If you remember, communication was flattened during emergencies, so there were no hierarchies. You would have private sector people speaking to heads of state and ministers very quickly, no protocols because we were facing emergencies. Borders were slightly opened and things were moving. COVID-19 brought a lot of goodwill between governments and private sector because I thought that to the extent that I thought that there was a new reality that we are now seeing, because I remember I'm a businessman from the dairy sector. A bit of security, I've done everything. I registered 30 businesses when I was young, brought them back to 12. Now I'm fighting to keep them 3. And I haven't been in any of those businesses for the last 18 months. Sometimes causes can really shape you and you don't think of other things. So I was running with cartons of milk to donate to the Prime Minister's office. And people were donating vehicles, and so kind of cooperation and goodwill. I thought we would keep it in country and within the region. I thought we are now going to agree as East Africans that interventions in the economy, what you call industrial policy, could be planned jointly because we all want to keep jobs, we all want to grow, we all want to make sure that the cost of inputs is dealt with. So I thought we would learn to act together. And so someone used the term I find interesting. He said, we are reconstipated. We were constipated before COVID and we have gone back slowly. And the leadership lessons we learned from COVID, we haven't really taken them. For me, where I stood, just to give you where I ended doing what I do today, is that I was worried about losing our business because one of our business, we lost 60% of our customers. And so I took some equipment, some 20 people, and we took a contract in South Sudan. So you drive from the capital of South Sudan, you go to a place called Torit, and there is a very snook village there called Tirangore. It's a land of the people called the Lotuk. And I lived there for about 4 months, walking 20 kilometers a day, fixing the road, not being paid, but really making sure that our workers don't leave. And when I was there, I thought, how do we recover from this? How does our business recover? How does the country recover? And so I was worried about jobs in Uganda before I thought of exports. So I began to ask questions because I feel that life begins with questions. If you really want to change an institution, a country, or an individual, you ask the right questions. And I thought, so if you have lost, we had about 85,000 bars. So people in Coca-Cola, like Simon, or people in the breweries would know, 85,000 bars across the country, each employing a minimum of 3 people. That gives you around 170,000 thereabout. If you add dependents, all those jobs were gone. We calculated around 320 for 2 years. We closed schools and many other businesses. So when the countries reopened, I would meet Ugandans serving teachers, highly qualified teachers, serving in other countries as security guards and all sorts of people. So I began to ask questions. How does an economy recover from this? So some people said, you need to find money, borrow money and give it to businesses. I said, okay, that's interesting. But if you give this money to businesses without a plan, what happens? It's good for a business to recover, give it working capital to find a domestic market. Some people said you really need to do import substitution and ensure that you shut down the market for certain products, including products from the region. That's dangerous because import substitution without a sunset clause that says whatever you produce somehow should end up in another market in order for you to pull in patents, technologies, skills, understanding, that business will not survive. And then there were the weird ones who said, but we could also increase some of our institutions, create more institutions, create some more districts, employ some younger people, make them RDCs. In Uganda, we have quite a big class of administrators. So I thought, all these ideas I'm hearing do not tell me how to grow. And let me tell you, my definition of leadership is the process of bringing to the surface generally unwelcome reality. People don't want to see that reality, but you bring it up, you surface it for an organization, for an individual, for a country, and you help people adapt to that new reality. And so we developed a 4-pronged model. And we took a study at about 13, 15 products, agriculture and industrial. And we said, if you simply make some changes in each of these products, you would raise a certain percentage in terms of sales only if you are able to take that product out of the country. And don't have to waste your time naming the products, but we took a look at the gaps, what was producing, what was selling, and what stood in the way. And we arrived at a 4-pillar model. And the 4-pillar model is this. And for me, if it works for Uganda by 2028, that's my target. Because when we arrived, looked at those gaps, did percentages, we found we could raise a fresh $6 billion in 5 years. This would double our exports. We didn't want to say double your exports. We said, no, each of these product heads has a percentage growth that has been stunted. And since we have learned from COVID, we should have a fresh way to think. And so we said, first, you need to stop going to markets blindly. Blind trade is what many of our countries do, many of our companies do. And I hope you know, this I'm speaking to the people who are much more knowledgeable than me. Countries don't compete at state level. Countries compete at company level. The size and nature of your company determines your space and platform in the world. So when I hear Angelina saying, I'm expanding, I'm going here, I say, thank God for that. We're building entities across East, Southern Africa, and hopefully the rest of Africa that can compete. So we said, stop blind trade. Make sure when you are going to any market, you should conduct basic dipstick survey. You don't have a lot of money to do that. It's expensive to conduct research in some of the developed countries. Whatever that research you pick, appoint a trade representative. Make sure that that market has someone who is able to walk in the morning to a supermarket or a corner shop and see who is selling here and what space do they have that I don't have. Embassies don't do that. The mental, cultural, emotional setup of diplomats is not to check the retail outlets downtown. So we said, get people who represent you. Now we have about 7 trade reps across some countries. Our aim is to make them 25 by 2028. But a trade rep is not enough. If the numbers are good, you should set up a trade hub. And this trade hub is really to say, this economy, this country, when you call its name, it says, I'm present, like a person in a classroom, child in a classroom. Because in many markets of the world, you say, so I can speak for my country, say Uganda, nothing. But you call other countries, they will have restaurants, they will have outlets, they will have storage facilities. So we said we need to disrupt that and ensure that there is a trade hub. Now, so we also looked at the way we were communicating to the world. African leaders and African businesses are shaped to think that the extreme liberal media of the West, the BBCs, you know, the CIA, this is what we watch and talk to. But these are not your friends. These have cultural influence. They project across the world to keep a certain way of life of the countries that own them. So we began to figure out what you call retail media. There's media for coffee. There's media for fruits and vegetables. And that became our media. The interviews with our leaders, with our business people. We began to project stronger than we were by taking them to Mbale, Buset, and Sironko. Let them see our Bugisu AA good coffee and have it spread in a magazine in Oregon. And so it's not just knowing about you, but people ask, where is this country and how can I visit it? So this is just one pillar. When we thought we were solving a problem of markets, the market demanded a standard. So I'm so excited to hear Angelina speak about the things you agreed on today. And I took my pen and I wrote them because there is a match in some of the work we're doing, and I want to see how we scale it to deal with East Africa. So the market demanded a standard. What's a standard? You can have a market, but if your rules and regulations are not modernized, every day I wake up, Europe is putting something on sim, on fruits, on coffee, on every single day. And you don't have a strategic response, let alone the thinking on how to respond. So we said, why don't we take vet medicine, chemicals that go in food? We look at animal feeds. We look at all these elements and put them under one authority. And then we began to face a brick wall. How do you start an authority when government is downsizing? And so part of this work, I can tell you, have found out that you're dealing with cultural constraints, the way we've been shaped to think. So eventually government agreed. Now we're We have a wonderful Attorney General who is younger than me slightly and very active and working with the Ministry of Agriculture. We are about to start a Food and Agriculture Authority that allows you to say this certificate, this document, I can vouch for it wherever I am. And so I came with my son. I don't know if he's here. Momo, just put up your hand. So that young man doesn't know fiat cash. He's never touched money. Even when they see paper money, they don't understand it. Their money is online, is phone. But if you go to our government offices, a lot of us, speaking, I hope I'm on home ground because I know we are East Africans. A lot of paperwork of the 20th century is what fills our offices. But these young people don't deal with paper. So I thought, once we have this authority and we have singular certification, which now we can take to East Africa and say it agrees, we should digitize it and blockchain it so that these kids can trade in their generation, not the way I have traded.